What's up, everyone? Hope you all had a fantastic week. Welcome back to the channel for another episode of the Ask Me Anything series. This one was really last minute. I didn't make the post on the community tab until late last night, but you guys still killed it with the questions. There was a ton to go through, so thank you so much to everyone who went and left a question on the post. I appreciate all of you guys. The first question of this episode comes from GZ Winter, who says, do you think that if Igor had another amazing season like this past season, 930 save percentage or above, would a lot more people see him above Vasilevsky? And also thank you for the kind words. Well, if he has another season like the one that he just had, you have to imagine that those numbers would be good enough to win another Vezina trophy pretty much unanimously. So if that happens, he wins back-to-back Vezinas, has back-to-back seasons with a 930 plus save percentage. At that point, I feel like you could probably confidently call him the best goaltender in the world at that time. Moving on now, next up we have a question from LJ's Highlights, who says, are the Calgary Flames going to be better than last year after signing Nazem Kadri to a 7-year contract? I don't know if they'll be better, but I still think they're going to be a very good team, one of the best teams in the Pacific Division, and I actually felt that way before they signed Nazem Kadri, so I'm even more confident in saying that now. I just feel like that team has really good structure under Daryl Sutter. I feel like the addition of Mackenzie Weegar keeps getting overlooked, adding him to a team that was already one of the best defensive teams in the league to a team that already has one of the better goaltenders in the league. They're definitely still going to be a really good team. Say what you want about the Nazem Kadri contract, sure, it's probably not going to age very well in years 5, 6, and 7, but he's going to make them a much better team right now. Brad Treliving really made the most out of an offseason that had the potential to be disastrous. Next up, this question comes from Adam Pepin, who says, even though he was away for a year, do you think Krejci can still produce for Boston this year? And also, thank you for the kind words. It's really hard to say, being 36 years old, spending a year away from the NHL, even though he still played hockey professionally in the Czech Republic, put up good numbers. Obviously, that league is nowhere near as good as the NHL is, but it's not like this is a player who's coming over to play in the NHL for the first time. Obviously, David Krejci spent over a decade in the NHL before going back to play over in the Czech Republic. Krejci's game has also aged really well over the years. Sure, he's 36 years old, but even if he lost a step, which, it makes sense to kind of expect that. Again, he is 36, he just took a year off playing in the NHL, so even if he's a step slower, I still think he's going to be impactful just based off of his play style. He's a responsible two-way center, very smart, very savvy. I'm sure he's going to be able to adapt just fine. This next question comes from Sam Bourne, who says, do you think the Islanders should fire their GM Lou Lamoriello, as they have missed out on so many opportunities to make the team better this offseason? It is pretty crazy that after the disappointing season the Islanders just had, they made virtually no moves or improvements to the team this offseason. Sure, they made the Alexander Romanov trade, but how big of an impact is that actually going to have on the team? Lamoriello has also made 0 free agent signings so far, which is insane considering they were heavily rumored to be in on Johnny Gaudreau. A couple of weeks ago, it seemed all but confirmed they were going to land Nazem Kadri. Obviously, that didn't happen. He signed with Calgary, and the deal he signed with Calgary, it was rumored that that was going to be the deal he was going to sign with the Islanders, so I definitely think Lou Lamoriello has some explaining to do. They fired Barry Trotz after one bad season, so maybe they should start to put some of that blame on Lamoriello as well. The next question we have comes from Airmaster2, who says, do you think that Sean Monahan will be able to have a bounce-back season in Montreal? Maybe the new change of scenery will help him get back to a 20 to 30 goal pace, and also thank you for the kind words. Just a little bit on the trade itself first. I absolutely love this move by the Montreal Canadiens. I think it's the perfect kind of trade to make when you consider where they are at as a team right now. Taking on the final year of Monahan's contract and getting a first-round pick for doing that, that's great value. And as far as your question goes, I definitely do think that we could see Sean Monahan bounce back and get back to being like a 25-plus goal scorer. This guy is only 27 years old, and he's already had 5 seasons in his career in which he scored 25-plus goals. I really feel like there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic here about this player if you're a Canadiens fan. He is not as bad as he played this past season. He's not that bad of a player. He definitely seemed to kind of fall out of favor with Daryl Sutter as well. The ice time was cut down. He was a healthy scratch here and there as well. Only scored 8 goals. This is a player who desperately needed a change of scenery. He got that, so let's hope he makes the most out of it now. Moving on now, this next question comes from Monkey, who says, I've seen some tweets say Leonard is most likely out for the whole season. What do you do if you're the Vegas Golden Knights? Do you try trading for a starting goaltender or have Thompson start in net? And thank you for the kind words. So that is true. It's been confirmed Leonard is likely out for the entire season. If you're Vegas and you have true Stanley Cup aspirations, I really don't think it's a good idea to go into the season with the Thompson and Laurent Brossoit tandem. Leonard is going to be going on the LTIR, so they're going to have some cap relief there. They're going to be able to have some flexibility when it comes to making a trade. I don't think Vegas should go make some huge splash for a big name star caliber goaltender. I just think they need a little bit of insurance. A guy like James Reimer, I think, would be the perfect ad for them. He's heading into the final year of his contract, makes just $2.25 million million, has put up solid, respectable numbers over the past couple of seasons. Again, I'm not talking a guy like John Gibson. I think a guy like James Reimer would be perfect. Just a little bit of insurance, a veteran goaltender who can come in, maybe be in a tandem with a guy like Brossoit or Thompson, and he's someone who's not going to break the bank. Obviously, we know Vegas likes to go big or go home, but in this situation, I don't really think that's the way to go. Now, how willing would San Jose be to help out one of their rivals and make a trade like this? I'm not really sure, but Vegas doesn't really have a lot of options. They kind of have to explore the trade market because there isn't any free agent goaltenders available that are like starting caliber. Braden Holtby is still a UFA, but he's in a similar situation to Robin Lehner where he's likely not even going to play this upcoming season, so he's not really an option. It's going to be really interesting to see what Vegas does. Next up, this question comes from Connor Scott, who says, which Red Wings prospects do you see having a big impact this year? And thank you for the kind words. I want to say Jonathan Berggren. I mean, I think it's time for him to get a shot at the NHL level. He was drafted in 2018, was one of the best offensive producers in the AHL this past season, but I'm going to go with Simon Edvinsson for this question just because I feel like in Berggren's case, it's going to be a lot harder for him to even make the team out of training camp and have a big impact and play a prominent role because the Red Wings have so many forwards, especially on the wing. He's going to have to beat out some NHL caliber players to get into the lineup, especially to get into the top 9 where I think he could really thrive. So I'm definitely going to go with Edvinsson as my answer for this one just because the Red Wings are so weak on the left side in terms of defense. Obviously they have Sherratt and Mata who they signed as UFAs, but the other guy that Edvinsson would have to beat out is like Jordan Oesterle. I'm pretty confident he's going to be able to do that. Next up, this question comes from the Juice Man, who says, does Anaheim tank for Bedard considering how good he's looked with McTavish at the World Junior Championships? I honestly think this season we're going to see a lot of teams try to tank for Connor Bedard, maybe not openly, but teams that are fringe playoff teams, maybe around the deadline, like say if they're 8 to 5 points out of a playoff spot or something like that. I think we're going to see a lot of teams like that just kind of blow it up at the deadline, try to get as low in the standings as possible. I really think it's going to be like the 14-15 season all over again, where teams were just trying to be as bad as possible for Connor McDavid. If Anaheim were to end up with Bedard though, add him to a core of Zegras, McTavish, Drysdale and those guys, the league better watch out because that would be pretty scary. Next up from Hockey Change, who says, forgive me if this has been asked already, but how do you feel about the direction of the Buffalo Sabres now that we're past the Eichel-Reinhart era? Do you think Alex Tuch has a good chance of becoming captain in the near future? I would definitely go with Alex Tuch as the next captain of the Buffalo Sabres. That's a guy who wants to be there. He's not old, but he has been in the league a while now. I would consider him like a veteran player kind of, and he's the guy who traded Jack Eichel for. I honestly think it would be a good idea to, put your faith in him, make him kind of the face of the franchise there. And as far as the direction of the team goes, I honestly think they're headed in the right direction. I think it's good that the Jack Eichel saga is now in the past and they can just look forward. There's a lot of bright spots, obviously, a ton of fantastic prospects. You have one of the better young defensemen in the league in Rasmus Dahlin. Like I said about Alex Tuch, he's a guy who wants to be there. He wants to be a Buffalo Sabre. You had a guy like Tage Thompson break out and have a 40-goal season. Buffalo is one of the hottest teams in the league the final couple weeks of the year as well. It's definitely going to take a while. I don't think they're, 1 or 2 years away from being legit playoff threats yet, but they're headed in the right direction for sure, I think. Next up, we have a question from Lamnot, who says, players that drop off at 30 or older, which type are the ones that usually stave off father time, high-end talent, first-round draft picks, or journeyman types? This is a really interesting question. I don't really feel like if there's any certain type. Obviously, the Crosbys, the Ovechkins, the Patrick Kanes, the generational players, their games usually age pretty well, but I would definitely say players who play a smart style of hockey, like one of their best assets is their high hockey IQ. Guys like Patrice Bergeron, I think that's why he's so effective still, into his mid-30s now. Joe Pavelski as well, and Joe Pavelski really has a niche. Like, he has some of the best hand-eye coordination in the league. He's always going to be effective if he's just standing out front of the net, right? So I would say definitely players like that, guys with a really high hockey IQ that don't really rely on their speed or athleticism a ton. And now for the final question of today's episode, this one comes from Daniel12, who says, who are your top 3 favorite NHL players right now not on the Red Wings? This is something I actually never really thought of. I have a lot of favorite players, a lot of guys that I like on separate teams, but I feel like it's always probably kind of fluctuating a little bit. It always changes up. The one that I'll always say, Nathan McKinnon, for sure. I grew up watching him play for the Halifax Mooseheads live numerous times. He's a local guy. He's from here in Halifax, or I guess Cole Harbour, kind of the same thing. Anthony Duclair is another one. I remember I really started to like him back when he played for Team Canada in the World Juniors, and I continue to like watching him play to this day. I think he plays a really fun style of hockey, run and gun, hyper offense, a style that a coach like John Tortorella probably doesn't like, but for a fan, it's really fun to watch. And for a third player, I'll say Igor Shesterkin of the New York Rangers. I always found myself flipping on Rangers games to see if Igor Shesterkin Shesterkin was putting on another masterclass, and more often than not he was. It's really fun to watch a goaltender like that play at that high of a level pretty much every single night. That's what he did this past season. He was unbelievable, so I'll say Igor Shesterkin. So that is going to wrap up this episode of the Ask Me Anything series. Like I said at the start, thank you to everybody who participated. Even if your question wasn't featured in the video, just know I appreciate every single one of you guys. If you enjoyed this and you want to see another Ask Me Anything in the near future, be sure to drop a like on the video. That is the best way to show your support. And most importantly, if this was your first time checking out the channel and you want more NHL content just like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I'll talk to you all soon.